welcome to Phantasmal Farce's Adventurise, where we delve into the world of entertainment and see if we can pull an adventure out of our arse. Our aim is to inspire and to show, so long as you look, almost anything can be a tabletop adventure. So don't be intimidated, and let's see what we can stitch together. I'm Allan, and I'm the forever GM Macastrix of a group of players in Wales. I love casting my 4th level arcane eye over stories and seeing how they translate into adventures. In this episode, we will be adventurizing
Archer. Archer is an American adult animated sitcom created by Adam Reed. Archer is a spy parody starring H. John Benjamin and also featuring Judy Greer, Chris Parnell, and Jessica Walters. Taking cues from James Bond and The Man from U.N.C.L.E., Archer is full of gadgets in a time setting that's hard to pinpoint, and is both modern and retro in feel. Archer is an excellent show for those who want their spy adventures with their tongue planted firmly within their cheeks. This episode was recorded shortly after the passing of Jessica Walters, who played Mallory Archer. She turned playing a twisted matriarch into an art form, and Archer is a prime example of that. Her excellent comedic timing in various rich bitch roles is something that the entertainment industry will miss and have a hard time replacing. She is an essential part of the Archer equation, and so when we discuss the tone and feel of Archer, she's a big part of everything we discuss in this episode. Opinion Eye.
Okay, so hi Rod, I think you've... Oh, I didn't even wait for you to say hi. So let's do that again, shall we? Hi Rod.
Hi.
Cool, now that we've done the intro correct. Right, so Archer. I really enjoy it. I think you've got a lot to say on it, so I'll pass over to you for the minute, and then we'll figure out... I'll interject where I disagree, but I don't think I'm going to be... If anything, I'm not going to be disagreeing, I'm just going to be going, oh, you forgot how good this bit is. But yeah, I'll let you take the lead on. Tell me, how good is Archer?
I think it's one of my top 3, if not top 2, television programs.
Can I ask what the other 2 would be?
No, The League and Monkey Dust.
Okay, interesting choices.
I do like Mandalorian, but it's not in this category. It's not sort of comedies and whatnot. So yeah, it's probably one of the best comedies that I've watched in a long time. The fact that it's still going. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going. Yeah, I wasn't actually saying anything.
The fact that it's still going strong. Into what is it? 11th, 12th season now.
11th.
Yeah, it just goes to show that it's got a good following. I mean, it's not had its ups and downs like Community did. Although what didn't kill Community certainly made it stronger to an effect. But yeah, it's great for a number of different reasons. It's cerebral. It requires your attention. It's the sort of comedy that I enjoy, where you have to listen and you have to remember for the callbacks and all of the smash cuts and things like that. It's yeah, blink and you'll miss it comedy. I do enjoy it. And it's the little things they say as well. It's the little nuanced things that if you are not paying attention, you'll miss it. But it's those quips that sort of will get you every time. And I enjoy that sort of that humour. It doesn't rely on poo and fart jokes. Poo and part jokes, I was about to say. Poo and fart jokes like, say, Family Guy or something like that. It's...
It is fair to say that if you enjoy that kind of thing, there is some of that for you if that's what you like.
Yeah, there is some crude to it, but it's not the full sort of package, in my opinion, at least. I would say it's on a par with Futurama, but the characters are people you love to hate, as opposed to just underdogs.
Yeah, similar to that, and also like you said that it builds on itself. I find it's very similar to Arrested Development, which prior to recording this, you reminded me also features Jessica Walters, who sadly died recently. But there's also Judy Greer, who's also in both. Jeffrey Tambor also shows up in Archer. But yeah, part of the reason I enjoy it so much is it's like Arrested Development. It rewards repeat watches and careful viewings.
So, yeah, it's just one of those comedic, sort of enjoyable, certainly tongue-in-cheek, maybe even a little sarcastic adventures that you could take from it. Maybe as a one-off, as opposed to sort of a full-length, as you put it, a hardcover adventure. More of a one-page idea, but it's sort of a palate cleanser. It's not something that you would play long-term, in my opinion. But because everyone has a laugh when they're doing a 5th edition, say, Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder adventure, but this would be constant comedy, ratcheted up to 11 almost. So yeah, I would see this as more of a one-shot adventure that you could pull from it and just have a laugh with it and just really have a good time. So this would be our Mirthmobile.
Okay, so Piers, you've got some clear ideas. I've got some ideas too. So we'll just move on, I think, to our next section. Mechanize. So you said that you think it was more suited to one-shots. Is there anything other than the comedic nature that kind of leads you in that way? Or is it one-shots have better comedic timing? Is it comedy that drives your decision there?
Comedy that drives my decision, you're right, yeah. Basically, a one-shot is maybe, it doesn't have to be one shot. It could be, over the span of 2 or 3 sessions, but it wouldn't be something long-term, like months or years, simply because the timing, it would have less comedy beats as things are stretched out more. Whereas if you condense an adventure into 1 or 2 or 3 sessions, you're going to be able to pack more in. Otherwise, it just becomes an adventure like any other. Whereas this, you're going to get belly laughs. And obviously, that takes time in and of itself as well, to keep things at a shorter, brisker clip, to keep the laughs concentrated. It'll remind you that you're playing a comedy game then and having fun with it, as opposed to just throwing in the odd little laugh and reference during a 12-month period.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up the intensity of the comedy if you're, especially because most people, ourselves included, are not professional comedians. Keeping a level of comedy that high and intense that you find in something, getting that Archer feel where it's quite dense, the comedy is coming at you quite, it's coming at you fast and heavy. I think for amateurs, it's, I don't want to sound kind of dismissive or pessimistic, but I think it's almost impossible for amateurs to keep the level of comedy that high for 12 months.
Scripted as well. At least, if you had it verbatim, word for word on a script, written like an Archer episode for a full series, then yes. But where's the fun in the lack of ad lib there? So yeah, to keep things constantly sort of having a laugh, concentrating on having a laugh, trying to find the jokes in it, it doesn't become a job anymore. You're just having a bit of a silly muck about over a pizza and maybe a beer.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, we've done a few of these, so I think the first thought I have. And my first thought is always, where do I put the players in this? Where do I put them? Who do I cut out to put them in place of? And because Archer's so tied to the characters, I struggle a bit with replacing them completely. There's definitely a lot of weight to the characters. A lot of the comedy comes from the characters. So how would you deal with basically putting a bunch of players into the Archer world? Would you have them play the spies themselves, Archer, Lana, etc., and the non-spies like Cheryl, I guess?
First question was asking, what of Archers would I take away? Would I be immediately using an adventure or a plot line from the show, or would I just be taking the show's setting and its feel, its atmosphere, and using those to base my adventure or one shot within. And either is perfectly plausible, but if everyone at the table is already aware of who these characters are because they're already playing them like that, or they're aware of who they are in the first place, having an adventure pretty much as a plotline of the Archer series is going to lead to sort of metagaming or basically no enjoyment because you already know at the end of Titanic it's going to sink. So there'll be spoilers ahead. So I personally would try and make my own plot, keeping the setting and the theme of Archer. So then there's two ways of going about that. You could have your own characters. If people are not familiar with Archer, rather than spending a good hour or so trying to explain the nuances of each character and how they should behave and forcing that upon people, you could then simply say, right, well, you're going to be a super spy. However, you're a blazing alcoholic, or you have some obvious and terrible flaw. Maybe you're an addict of some sort. Even the best butler in the world had ants on him every now and again. Everyone in that show, somewhere along its lines, has a flaw. Some of them are so flawed that it's hard to find their good points.
So if you were to get people to play, so you were to have a character sheet made up for Archer, for Lana, etc., do you think that there would need to be a certain level of tact in handing them out, or would you let people choose? But then obviously there's the issue of people who are not familiar with it, might not know who to choose. Do you think that, for example, giving someone the Krieger sheet could knock someone's confidence or something, going like, oh, you think I'm Krieger? Do you think that's something you need to think about?
If you were handing them out, then yeah, obviously, or rather naturally, you would be considering people's own personalities and who may be best fit. I mean, nobody is 100% Archer or 100% Cyril, but some people could resemble them, or the majority of a personality trait that they would better suit that character. So you could hand them out. And if you've given it forethought, then someone who maybe identifies, shall we say, as a Krieger may not see it as offensive in the first place. If you're worried about causing offense, then, or they're not familiar with these people, and then you lump it on them and say, by the way, this is a clone of Hitler himself, with a penchant for hentai and other deviances, such as Piggly, it's better than just to maybe...
Oh, Piggly.
Oh, Piggly. It's better just to maybe either A, not include that character, or B, put the sheets in the center and they randomly choose them. You turn them all over and people grab what they are, and what they are is what they are. And that's how the dice fall. That way then no one's to blame. They took it at random, and that is how it is.
Okay, I know I said that it could be a potentially dangerous game to play, but let's roll the dice. Okay, so I think I know who I would give you from Archer if we were to assign characters.
Okay.
Do you have someone in mind that you think? Do you have someone that you would hand me the character sheet for as well?
If I wasn't randomly assigning and I had to think about who to give you, then I'd have a pretty good idea. Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to? I know I suggested it, but do you want to go first? Who am I? And who am I? And why is it Cyril? And it better not be Cyril.
You would be Ray. You're silly and lovably tragic when you're drunk. Ray can also be quite scathing and quite cutting and pithy. What Ray lacks, though, is that annoying streak of sarcasm where you will constantly jibe at someone with your as we have come to know it within our social group, your squid ink sarcasm, where you will say something and then use it as a cover to swim away to safety. Ray lacks that.
I think he's got his moments, Particularly the episode where you meet his brother. I think I'd be very much like Ray in that episode. I think, yeah, as in that definitely would allow my sarcasm squid tendencies to fly, because obviously his brother is a drug dealer, for anyone who's listening who doesn't know. And he's very sincere in thinking Ray has gone on to be all highfalutin and lost his roots. And Ray is pretty dismissive of the fact that his brother is a drug dealer. I think there's a lot in that episode, and some others. I think he's more sarcastic than perhaps you're thinking. He's just not as sarcastic as me.
I'm always rethinking things and treading new ground and going, oh yeah, I remember that now. Tragic when drunk. You've very rarely been to that state. It's usually Christmas time, but God, I love Christmas time with you.
Okay, so that's pretty comprehensive. Like I said, I mainly I think it's you've put a lot of thought into it, and I don't necessarily disagree. But my main takeaway is, thank God it wasn't Cyril. Because I honestly, I think Cyril is the least redeemable of the characters. He has, I don't know, as in, maybe I'm being too harsh, and I do love Chris Parnell, and obviously I love the character he gives to Cyril, but I think Cyril is a bit, I don't know. Cyril is my least favorite character, and that includes people like Barry.
Least favorite character to play or overall?
I think overall. He's just not. He doesn't have the same redeeming qualities, and he's not. And there's obviously, particularly, you could say that Carol, Cheryl, whatever name she's going by at the minute, she's less redeemable, but she's hilarious. Whereas Cyril is not as balls to the wall, constantly hilarious, to make up for the fact that he's a pretty spineless, weaselly man, really.
Yeah, that's a chicken and an egg conversation for another time. Is Chris Parnell a Jerry, or is Jerry Chris Parnell?
Oh, that's another. That is. I'm going to close that box, and we'll open it another time.
Yeah.
So you've chosen Ray for me. I did say beforehand that I definitely didn't want to be Cyril. Is there any comments you would like to make before I reveal my choice?
As to who I think it would be?
Yes. Or perhaps even who you think yourself would be. However any comment you want to make, really.
I would imagine you would choose, you'd probably choose Krieger or Cheryl.
Okay.
Not that I sniff glue, but I am unpredictable in that sense, I think.
Yeah, you do yell at people in that they're not your supervisor.
Oh, if I can, yeah.
But no, I'd actually give you Pam, mainly because you said that there's not as much kind of toilet crude humor as Family Guy. She probably is responsible for the majority of the cruder jokes, which I think in our D&D group, although some people come out with some real zingers, I think the general level of crudeness, you're the highest. I'm not saying that other people can't out crude you when they try, but your kind of baseline level is higher. However, Pam is kind of the heart of the show. She's the one who's the most human, and she generally tries to do the right thing. I say that with a little caveat in that it's what she believes is the right thing, and sometimes her trains of thought don't really go to the same stations that a normal person's would. But yeah, that's what I would say, is that you are the kind of crude, the crudest, but perhaps the basically you're a crude dude, but with a heart of gold.
Okay, yeah, I would probably say I've got the shortest temper. I'm quickest to take off my top, bearing my biblical tattoo throwing fists.
Yeah, you did also as well when you said I was Ray. You forgot to mention that I am a cyborg, which makes me very similar to him.
Apologies. Yes, you certainly are from the waist up.
But yeah, so we spent an awful lot of time talking about which character we'd be, which is fine. But so you said that you wouldn't take plots directly. Are there any plots that you think, just off the top of your head, you could make a good adventure out of? Maybe not trying to translate Archer exactly, but just things you can take.
Little snippets from here and there to add in. You mean to a little sort of seasoning, like what's the word I'm looking for? A little plot callback from here and a little sort of wink and a nod and an homage there.
Yes,
is that what you mean?
Yeah.
There are several. Yeah, usually it's the longer double, triple, quadruple sort of part episodes. For example, when they are sent to cause a coup in Bolivia, I believe, or a fictitious part of Bolivia, with Mr. Calderon.
Ah, yes, played by Fred Armisen, who's also
incomparable.
Excellent. Yeah, I know this is probably something that we should have put at the front with our opinions, but like the voice cast include both the regular voice cast and the guests is always
no doubt about it. So yeah, there's that for Calderon. I suppose there could be the whole plot arc over season 5, Archer Vice trying to sell cocaine. What other ones stand out to me?
My personal one is I probably should have looked it up, but it's from season 1? The one with the airship.
Excuse me. I know it. I know the one with the airship. Yes.
Because you've got a nice little closed loop. You've got the airship. There's a bomb on the airship. You can, you have to find the bomb and disarm it, and that also has the element of finding who the bomber is, because that's how you're going to find where the bomb is, unless you literally, search every inch of the ship. And then you can add things in. Like I really do like the German guy who's got the eye patch, and he's all really clearly in. If you're going by cliches, is super suspicious, but it turns out that he lost his eye helping orphans, and basically everything about him that is suspicious, he actually got in a really kind of he got in an event that shows him to be a really brave and wholesome character. You could bring in parts of that, maybe spread it around rather than just having one major suspicious guy, but have a lot of people who have levels of suspicion, but it's actually the opposite. So you can get a bit more mileage out of the joke. But yeah, the airship episode is one that when I'm thinking about an adventure, I keep coming back to.
That would be Skytanic that you're referring to.
Okay, excellent. That's something I have to Google afterwards.
Yeah, and then it does lend itself well to the whole repetitive comedy where Archer is always, what was it called? Calling back to the fact that it would be, hence it being called Skytanic, where he constantly expected it to explode like the Hindenburg.
Yeah.
But constantly, and ignoring the fact that he was being reminded that it wasn't hydrogen, it was helium, an inert and safe gas. So, but he nevertheless went for it. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but yeah, the general thing is that there's so many plots that you can, and a lot of them are quite simple, they're not very, because despite it being a spy show, there are quite a few episodes that are not very action packed. I'm thinking primarily the one that's coming to mind is the one where they're guarding the oil pipeline, and a large amount of that episode is just them. It's just Lana and Archer arguing at the actual pipeline. So I do agree with what you said. I think you said it earlier. The kind of theme and feel is something easier, or maybe not easier. That's the wrong word. But if you're trying to make your table feel like an episode of Archer, it is feel and tone and humor you're taking rather than plot point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's always certain things that you could throw in, and there's always reasons or excuses that you could take from the episodes to excuse why a character is not there. For example, if no one is the Krieger, you could say that he is currently working with Pigley, or on his honeymoon, or at Fort Kickass, where he recognizes no one's authority.
Yeah, there are. I do think, to a certain extent, that people who are familiar with the show would get a bigger kick out of it, but it is so funny that I think people who see it who don't know will enjoy it. However, if they ever then watch Archer, they'll feel a little cheated is the wrong word, but if you do a really good Archer adventure, the people who you play with are going to think you're hilarious. But when they find out how much of that is just channeling the show, I think they're going to be like, you're a hack. Despite how hard it is to kind of channel a show correctly. It's so good that it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, as long as you can get that little piece of leverage.
So yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's easy to take little things to put in as little references. Again, that plays all into the callback humor of Archer and how it's set and framed in the first place. So to do that would be having a mixture is probably a better way to do it. But again, I still feel that not to plagiarize an entire plot, but to take maybe a plot hook. For example, the airship Skytanic, maybe they I suppose that all depends on the players at the end of the day. Maybe they react differently, but they don't get to the bomb one. It doesn't go, or it does go off in time, or there's a dud, or there's another that was only part one of it, and there's another thing to resolve after that, possibly. I mean, there was only the bomb, and then there was obviously who planted the bomb, so you could continue on from there. But yeah, ultimately, I would say try and get as much, do your research, try and think of how the show is put together, the tone of it, sort of the recurring jokes. Read a book, or do you want ants? Because that's how you're going to get ants. And things along those lines.
Classic is, which I think is easy to insert into any game, is phrasing.
Phrasing, oh yes. And it will come up. If someone crosses that line, or there's some double entendre, either deliberately or inadvertently dropped, phrasing would be straight in there without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think it's very, very unlikely you'll get through a whole game session without someone crossing that line.
Of course. It's inevitable that crude humor is going to come up, because it's part of Archer and the way the show works, particularly from the main character, the titular character himself. For example, naming escorts as are they called escorts if they're alive, and then prostitutes when they're dead.
It's hookers, but as in escorts when they're alive, hookers when they're dead. Cyril, because it's he's teaching Cyril how to be a super spy, and it appears to involve drinking and womanizing a lot more than it does, real spy stuff. Good episode.
There's the constant insults that he would throw as well. That, I mean, there are, maybe in his naivety or his innocence, there are instances where he would maybe use words that we wouldn't in today's society, particularly concerning, say, Lana's heritage.
Yes, there are like a lot of things, because it's run for so long, it crosses over several. There's like several cultural kind of generations it spans, because obviously, not only kind of views on certain things being changing around it. The spy agency he works for in the first 4 series is called ISIS, which obviously suddenly became not so great a name circa, was it 2012, 2013? So yeah, but it's made the changes to keep itself relevant, I think. I think when something has fallen out of favor, they haven't held on to it and dragged it into the ground. They've just found new creative ground to break.
Yes, they moved away from, and ISIS wasn't a sort of a nod to it came before the people in the group in Syria. It was the International Secret Intelligence Service. It was actually an acronym. But then they moved then to become the Figgis Agency, where they became private detectives, or
yeah,
that's right. They are private detectives, aren't they?
Yeah, and to be fair, they've been drug dealers. They've worked for the CIA. If you follow the whole Dreamland series, he's been a 1940s private eye, a pilot on a adventure island, and a spaceship captain. So yeah, it's a lot. That's probably going to sound very confusing to anyone who hasn't seen the show or knows anything about the show, that they could have crossed so many kind of areas. But I think it's, as I said, there's a lot of the show, and it's always really good.
So yeah, there's always something that you could try and remove or change or quickly message and then move away from for a laugh. Or maybe not. It depends on your setting and the people that you're playing with. Obviously, you have to try and gauge that. Read the room. If you play in public at your friendly local game store, the last thing you want to be doing is talking about food rapists. You don't want to offend anyone, because while you're in the game and part of the game, you've effectively consented to that, or you've discussed what parts that you want to be talking about. Someone overhearing you, however, has not accepted or consented to that. So you have to be wary of people around. So you have to read a bigger room, yeah.
Yeah, and that's also another thing to make kind of clear. When we said it's not like Family Guy, Archer is still very much for adults. It's just for adults in a smarter way than Family Guy is. So yes, if you are in public, you are going to have to do a certain level of censoring's the wrong word, but like self-editing.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with mentioning Lana's big hands.
Yeah.
Truckosaurus. But then mentioning that Aubergine would be, and I'm going to use the term, I do apologize, mulatto, that's not okay. And even they call Archer out on it in the show, but he changes it for something equally as horrible and outdated.
Yes, it's a bit it's a little bit similar to Community with Pierce.
Yes.
And some of the jokes surrounding him and his choice of language. I can't actually remember off the top of it. I know there's one where I can't remember what he says, but someone gets really offended and they tell him, no, it's fine because we've allowed, he's trading. He can say that one so that he no longer says something else anymore. But yeah, but like you said, with the Lana's large hands and that's how you get ants. There's so many jokes that you can tailor it to where you want to be. You don't have to go. You can go low, you can go high. There's just an awful lot.
Yeah, and if you do insist on going the full Archer experience, then obviously consider where you are and keep it maybe to the home game where you are free to say whatever and however you want.
Yeah. Or if you know for a fact if you are in public if you know it's a. I don't really know how to say this
Taboo,
exactly.
I would say, is just taboo.
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, basically, you do need to be careful of reading the room because the humor is on the nose. They do push the edges, but it's not. I just want to reiterate again, it's not Family Guy. If you were trying to imitate Family Guy, there would be, and you stripped out everything that was offensive. Basically, the show would be the theme song, and that's it, pretty much. Family Guy, that is, not Archer.
Yeah. So yeah, ultimately, try and keep as much of Archer in there, but plot-wise, you know. But me personally, I would think trying to have as much of a as much of a free-form homebrew, home-penned, self-written, however you want to look at it, one of your own, story of your own. That would be the best way of doing it, in my opinion. There are plenty of places and things that you could possibly think of to take inspiration from, such as the skyship Excelsior. There's always what other nonsensical ones are there? There's the escort mission on the train to Canada, where Archer is constantly making fun of their gun control, or where to protect Cheryl, they lock her in a vault.
Though that also, I know it's one of your favourites. That episode with the train to Canada introduces a character who I know you're particularly fond of. Do you want to talk about them?
Yeah. I wish if you hadn't said Pam, this would have been my second choice character. I love that little cat, little Babu. I love little Babu. He's brilliant. The fact that he will have a conversation, I think that just lends to Archer itself, is the fact that the cat, although it's grounded in reality to a certain extent, as much as it can be, it's spies and silliness, and the fact that Archer is still alive after drinking himself constantly into an absolute stupor, that the cat will have a conversation is just absolutely brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, he likes cats in general. I would wager, because when they meet a tiger, when he meets up with the rest of them, he excitedly tells them, "Hey, we met a tiger." It just so happens that the next sentence is, "He got murdered."
He wasn't alive, yeah.
Yeah, it really kind of gives you the tone can give you whiplash at some points.
Yes, yeah, I give you that. Yeah, he doesn't like dogs. There was a dog in the apartment one time, and he lost his temper. That was episode 1, I believe, where he threatened poor Woodhouse.
Yes, with sand, and he doesn't know if they grain it, but if they do,
of course,
got it. Right, so we spent a lot of time, and we've kind of more just been discussing the tone. So we spent a lot of time talking about tone and humor and what we would take from it, but we haven't really dug into specifics, which I think is kind of by design. We don't think it's something to mine for specifics.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're going to get a bit more nitty gritty when we go to the systemize section. So, is there anything else that you want to add to mechanize before we systemize?
Just to really sort of summarize what we've been talking about, just remember your plot points and the little bits of seasoning that you want. Try and keep them and know where you want to put them. Don't try and shoehorn them in. But yeah, just remember Archer's sort of the way it's written, the running gags, the callbacks, foreshadowing to a certain point, the little catchphrases, the quips, the read a book, the phrasings, and don't let crude or lewd humor get you down. It's part and parcel of it. It's touched upon and moved quickly away from. The tone is like I say, it gives you whiplash. So don't be afraid to kill a tiger if you need to.
Systemize.
Right, my first thought, the first thing I immediately thought is this isn't really the D&D, the Five Finder, as I call it, kind of game. However, and we didn't in our kind of planning discussions and notes, we didn't mention this, but I would like to do a Archer D&D game for one reason and one reason only. And that is when someone's health gets low, you can say they're in the danger zone.
Get out. Cut. I quit.
Okay, sorry. I apologize. Right.
No, if you do that, I will not be playing in that game because just there's a reason that wasn't in the preamble and discussions beforehand.
Right.
I'm laughing now, but I'm only to humour you. That's terrible.
You're laughing because otherwise you'd cry.
Cry, yeah. You goon.
Okay, but for real, I don't think a game like D&D Pathfinder, the traditional hit points classes game, I don't think you'd get you could have an Archer flavored experience, but you wouldn't be actually getting an Archer experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. You don't need mechanics. You need something that can push a narration and a narrative along. It's more the social aspect and the talking. The GM could immediately just adjudicate if a bullet goes astray or not. It doesn't matter. You could insta-kill people. That's how the real world works. You need something whereby the character comes through as opposed to the character's actions. Yeah.
So that was my first thought. I thought what systems I wouldn't use rather than jumping to systems that I would use. Do you have any that kind of come to mind that you think might work?
There are so many different systems. To try and go through them all to sort of go through the process of elimination, there's too many for me. So I just thought about what would best suit that modus operandi of following the narration and the narrative, and allowing your character to grow and show and shine. So, I mean, although I haven't played it, I have read it because you own this game, Toon, and I've quickly flicked through it. So, I mean, it would probably need a bit of modification and whatnot, and because everything you buy is from the Acme company, you could always have that quartermaster who wants everything done in triplicate, and he's behind his bulletproof screen. But that's pretty much the only. Oh, and the plot armor. That's pretty much the only sort of two parallels that you could draw. So maybe Toon of a certain extent, because it does lend well to the silliness and everything of it all.
Yeah, it's as much as Archer is. There is a certain level of grounding. It's not the same as Looney Tunes. It is still animation, and it doesn't pretend it's not animation. There are some times where it, particularly when injuries and the like are done, they tend to be dealt with in a very cartoony way. Though they do tend to be permanent, unlike a lot of cartoons. But I think Toon would be for if you want to lean into the animated sitcom aspects. I think if those were the bits you wanted to really lean on, I think Toon would be good.
There's you're looking at dealing with ridiculous scenarios and even more outlandish characters. Maybe they're aware of the plot armor, so I would say maybe Fiasco, because that sort of is character based. You, the character, are driving things along. You can say outlandish things, you can do outlandish things, and you sort of play along with it then. You have a say, rather than reacting to what the GM is putting in front of you, you have a say in the nonsense and how you would react in that situation. I would say maybe Fiasco would be quite good.
Yeah, I think Fiasco is a good choice. It allows a lot of freedom. The game itself implies a certain level of chaos and wackiness. Maybe wackiness isn't the exact best word, but it does lend itself. It doesn't lend itself to reenacting Shakespeare. It's I don't know if you've ever seen it referred to as this, but I've seen Fiasco be referred to as a Coen Brothers movie, like as a game. So like, you know, Burn After Reading, Fargo, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard it being referred to as that, unless you did and it just didn't stick with me. But yeah, I can see that. Yeah, there's no hard and fast stats. It can be tweaked and extended to encompass the whole story that you intend on putting out there, rather than the normal 2 or 3 scenes, halfway point 2 or 3 scenes that the book sort of measures and hands out to you. And also, there's no hard and fast character generation with stats or anything. It's based off of affirmations. So you do have the fluidity to add something in, or, as most people are, be fickle and go against character sometimes, depending on how things and the situation demands it. So, yeah, there is always that, I would say.
It also has its GM-less, so everyone can get into the fun of because sometimes it shouldn't, but I think sometimes people feel like the GM is separate to the rest of the table, and Fiasco does really get rid of that. And I think in a comedy game, the more you feel on the same level, the better that's going to go.
There's no two sides of it then. That's right, yeah. So what about yourself then? What do you thought? Because I would say Fiasco is probably my best foot forward. Do you have any other ideas?
Okay, because I said that nothing came immediately to mind. What I did eventually remember is I backed on Kickstarter a game called Mission Accomplished, which is the creator basically upfront claims that it's inspired by Archer. The art style is very much inspired by Archer. If the writing at time isn't as the writing isn't as obvious, the writing is inspired. The writing, you could. I'm going to redo it. The artwork is very inspired by Archer. He could have got away without saying the text was inspired by Archer, because it's equally inspired by the things that inspired Archer. You know, the Avengers, not the Marvel thing, the 60s show.
Peel and the bowler hat man.
John Steed, I think, is his name.
Steed Peel.
Yeah, you know, the man from Uncle, Mission Impossible, again, the 60s, not the latest Tom Cruise films.
Can't catch me, gay thoughts.
Exactly. Though wrong episode, because that we've spent quite a bit of the episode kind of subtly ragging on Family Guy. We can't then quote them.
I never said it wasn't good. It's just not the same.
But yeah, so it's very kind of that weird kind of 1960s, but also somehow the future kind of thing. That kind of weird anachronistic time period. But basically, it's very based on Fiasco. Apart from it does have a GM type character. It has the mission control, as they call it, and the entire game, a session is framed as a flashback to a mission that has been succeeded. It's because it's called Mission Accomplished. You're always talking about a successful mission, but it's always a mission that has succeeded, basically in spite of your efforts, really, rather than because of them. As in, you know, you're there and mission control is asking you, you know, why you, and again, this is where you can read the room. There's some sort of ridiculous expense, you know, like you bought 80,000 bananas, or, you know, 80,000 cock rings. You know, you can read the room and tailor it to your kind of level and what your group, and like we've said, the location you are, you can kind of hit your sweet spot. But yeah, so I've played Fiasco, and therefore I definitely would recommend Fiasco. Mission Accomplished, because I've only read it and I've never played it, that would be a kind of more cautious recommendation. But the author does claim that it is, he claims it's based on Archer, so he thinks it kind of helps create the Archer feel. So why not give it a go? It might be that he's already done all the work of getting the Archerness into a table, like a tabletop adventure, not table the abstract concept, not table the thing with 4 legs.
Or the thing with column and rows in Excel.
Yes, not that either.
That's always a consideration then. So it's framed then as a debrief session with mission control asking the questions to try and clarify how the team managed to fail upwards.
Yeah.
Is it done on individual sessions? As in, is it, say, for example, you on one side of the table? Is it done as an interrogation or one-on-one? Or is everyone in the room while this is happening and everyone interjects or interrupts or has questions fired at them in sort of random ways rather than one person being question, and then move on, question to the same person?
It has rules like Fiasco where everyone is there, everyone can contribute, but it has rules about shifting the spotlight around. So again, I've only read it and it's a while ago. It's generally that the questions will be shifted around, but if someone wants to hop in on someone else's question, it is encouraged, but there are when it is someone's spotlight moment, there are certain rules regarding what other people can or can't do. Like, for basically, if it's the spotlight person, they have final say whether something happened or not. Effectively.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So someone else can chip in and go like, "Oh, and this happened," but it is ultimately whoever's got the spotlight decides. And like Fiasco, there are rules as to how the spotlight moves around the table.
So it doesn't become a pissing contest where actually it was a bazooka. No, it wasn't. It was an Abrams tank. No, it wasn't an Abrams tank. It was a Harrier jump jet, and things just escalate to the point of absurdity. Because you are the final arbiter, you can say no. Actually, it was a match with a grenade. Sorry, bye bye. Good night.
Yeah, and it does have the mission control character, the GM type character, who's also there to kind of guide things in the right direction,
okay.
Despite also being in the Archer kind of parlance. Mission control is basically Mallory.
Mm-hmm. So mission control has a part to play in this. They would be playing it up as Mallory then. They'd be in character as well.
Yes, that's probably the main thing that you would probably add, because I believe the mission control in the game as written is quite neutral. There is a certain level of characterization to them, but they are ultimately a blank slate. So yeah, I think there would be you'd have to think of ways of making the mission control character more like Mallory Archer.
To email him about that, he's Mr. Trick.
I'm guessing he might also be trying to avoid
the direct comparison without license.
The old lawsuits.
Is there anything else then? Is there any other? I mean, would Fate sort of jump out at, because it has that element of playing a character and based off of affirmations and statements about your character, and that's how it's played. So, do you think that Fate could be a forerunner as well?
I think it would be good, but from our discussions, I would definitely put Fiasco or Mission Accomplished higher. But I would say if you have a group who need, because obviously you do Fate, you do have stats as well to a certain extent. If you have a group who really, really want to have a character sheet with some stats and things like that on it, which obviously you don't have in Fiasco or Mission Accomplished, I would say Fate is a good option if people have. If your game, and you might be as a GM that you only like running games with that kind of stuff.
Maybe it's a last minute idea. Someone's dropped out. You need to pull something clean out of your ass. You've listened to the Adventurise, which is all about pulling a plot out of your ass. But nobody around the table knows Fiasco, but everyone knows Fate. Could you step in and use Fate as a sort of a last minute? Although it may be a shoehorn, it could be a sort of a suitable plan B, is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I would say yes. It's not like D&D or Pathfinder type thing where my initial thought was, well, not that. It doesn't have that. So yeah, if it's your preferred RPG language, or like you say, you have the time to fill and everyone knows how to play it, yeah, it's definitely that I would give that the runner-up award. Yeah.
Okay, bronze medal goes to Fate. Well done.
Summarize.
Okay, so we've talked we've talked a lot, and again, like I don't know why I keep mentioning it. People can listen; they've heard it. It's all on record. But there's a lot of specifics we haven't mentioned. However, it's more of a vague soup of archery type ideas that you can make what you will of. So, considering that it isn't that set in stone, would you play what we've been discussing?
Hell yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I love Archer. I'm not going to go full circle and start doting and gushing over Archer all over again. I love Archer. To be able to play any character in it, so as long as it's not Cyril, then yeah, I would gladly play. My biggest concern is that I would be too busy hogging the limelight just to soak in, if not by osmosis, as much archiness as I possibly can. Yeah, I'd love it. Yeah,
I pretty much there's not much I can disagree with you on there. I also would really like to play an archer type adventure, and I think that's also why ultimately I would go with Fiasco Mission or Mission Accomplished, because they're games that manage. They have built-in ways to manage Spotlight, and I think yes, because like yourself, if you're playing, I think as well, if it's a group where you've got some massive Archer fans and some who aren't so familiar, the massive Archer fans are going to want to pounce on every moment. They're going to see how it's going, and they're going to want to be there all the time. So I think with a proper, with proper planning of the Fiasco play kit, or with a proper read of Mission Accomplished and knowing it a bit better than what I've actually described, someone who's actually read it and grokked it and got it in their head. I think because they do manage Spotlight, it would avoid that. And the thing is that there's still so much when you're dealing with the kind of Archer tone. If you get it right, it's so dense that everyone will. It's unfortunate that it will be one of those things where everyone will get way more spotlight than they need, but I don't think anyone will get as much spotlight as they actually want. But a game that can spread it around, I'd definitely be interested in playing, because you are right. Well, maybe again, I'm not. It's not something you've expressed, but if I enjoy a game a lot, but I find out that someone was just sat there bored the whole time, it does kind of take a little bit away from the enjoyment afterwards.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, I definitely feel the same. Whether I'm a player or GM, more so if I'm a GM, because it's my game that's made that person bored. Yeah, it does. I want people to enjoy themselves. Like I say, my biggest concern is hogging the limelight. Even if I was the mission control character, I'd be trying my best to make the jokes myself and hog that limelight. So I would really have to be on best behavior as much as I was on my worst behavior.
Yeah, but like I said, I think that's why a game, and I'm sure there's games out there that I don't know about, you don't know about, that also have ways of managing Spotlight. I think games where Spotlight is managed will turn this from something I really, really want to play. I think utilizing that kind of game properly it'll be something everyone wants to play.
Agreed. Yeah. So yeah, I let's give it a go. Can we play it after Dance Macabre, please, 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 please?
Crap! I was trying to think of an Archer line that would be relevant, but
you ruined my outro. I'd worked hard on that. Please.
do you want to ruin Rod's outro? Because that's how you ruin Rod's outro.
Rod. There we go. Well done.
So that was our episode on
Archer.
Hope you got some good ideas out of it. So next time you need something that inspires you, you won't just theorise, but adventurize. And if you do, please let us know. All the links to socials found in the show notes. And we'll catch you next time.